let's dive right into it. President Biden signed the CHIPS and Science Act into law this week. So the House Democrats here in Ohio had put out a statement that this could mean good things for the state. So could you expand on what that could mean for us here in Ohio?
Yeah, so the CHIPS Act is really puts Ohio right at the center of making sure that our American supply chain is resilient, specifically as it relates to semiconductor chips, which are super important for our automobiles, electronic devices, many of our, for much of our energy sector as well. So this helps address, some of those supply chain issues, lowering cost on those everyday goods, but also just as importantly, strengthening our national security, because in the past, a lot of that manufacturing has been shifted overseas. And of course, Ohio, why this is such a big deal for us is because we have the large Intel plant that is coming here. This was an important piece of legislation that was part of Intel investing here. And we're talking about large generational change in the jobs that this will bring to our state.
This is definitely some exciting stuff. And when it comes to dealing with issues like climate change, which President Biden had brought up during yesterday's or the signing ceremony that he had held, what do you think are some of the big things that we're going to need to be able to get done in order to create that a real and effective change?
Well, these chips are a huge part of certainly for electric vehicles and the production of more electric vehicles. This is a key component. Also, when we look at, some of the renewable energy technologies, solar panels, grid, battery storage, these chips are an important component of those key inputs into expanding renewable energy. So it really, it touches on multiple sectors, especially as we start to transition to more clean energy sources.
And Ohio it's an interesting place when it comes to clean energy because we're right by Lake Erie, and there are even plans, for some wind farms to be coming to our area because of all the natural resources that we have access to here in Ohio. So it's hopefully we can get some more of those green energy uses across the country as it comes to dealing with climate change. But switching gears to November, which is also coming up, you have the general election. So what are your expectations for Democrats here in the state of Ohio?
Well, we have a number of really great opportunities. We've got some very competitive districts that not only some of our incumbents, but also some new and exciting candidates are going to be running in. We think that there are some great opportunities as we head into November. We're seeing certainly as the economy is improving, those gas prices are going down. But also, some of the concerns, particularly around access to reproductive health care and reproductive rights, is energizing a lot of folks in a way that's very positive for Democrats. So I think, what we saw even in this week's primaries and special elections last week, what we saw happen in Kansas, that we're in a different time here. And I think Democrats are going to do much better than expected, particularly in some of our suburban districts.
One race that's highly anticipated is that Senate race, which of course includes Congressman Tim Ryan, who has a lot of connection to Ohio, and he has a lot of appeal to a lot of voters. And then you also have J.D. Vance, who is also running. So what do you think Senator Tim Ryan needs, or Congressman Tim Ryan needs to do in order to, one, win and become senator, but to deliver for voters here in Ohio?
Well, I think Congressman Ryan, who I am 100% behind, is running a fantastic race. His fundraising, his grassroots donor base has been really off the charts. And, clearly he's got a lot of in-state grassroots support. And, he's really anchoring himself on a very pro-worker message. And, talking about the economy, talking about growing good paying jobs and putting Ohio at the forefront of all of that. So I think he just needs to, continue to stick with those messages. And I think he will do very well come November.
And that pro-worker stance is familiar because you also have Nan Whaley, who's running for governor, and that has also been one of her key points that she's been making in campaign advertising, as well as all the campaigning she's done across the state of Ohio. So Ohio, it has become an increasingly red state when it comes to elections. So why is it becoming harder for Democrats to, deliver for these voters who are switching parties?
Well, Ohio is not a red state, it's a rigged state, and we're still a purple state. Certainly we hue a little bit more red, but I think as we see, particularly the state house, the extremism, the power at any cost that is coming from the Republicans, I think that we've got many voters, including those that are independent, who are very alarmed and concerned. And look at the state house, for example. We see the extreme legislation that's out of touch with the majority of voters. We see the corruption, just the drip, drip, drip of news every day of our largest corruption scandal in state history. And I think we're going to see, Democrats do very well in November because of those concerns. And listen, as Democrats, we are the pro-worker party. We are about investing in people and making sure that all people in all communities can thrive. And, from the top of the ticket to the bottom of the ticket with some of our state legislative races, we're all talking about those issues that matter to everyday Ohioans. And I think, the Republicans focusing on these very divisive issues and extreme issues is turning many voters off.
And I think voters in general have become more turned off from elections just because of the rhetoric that's been used. And it's really difficult right now for, a lot of politicians to go out there and try to get their message across. So it's going to be interesting to see how November shapes up in Ohio and really across the country. So Ohio House Minority Leader Allison Russo, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you. You have a great day.
You too. Hey, and your haircut looks great, by the way. I heard
Thank you. I appreciate
today.
it.
All right.
You know what? I've been trying to stick with the one look for a while now, and I think this one might be it.
Good.